Today I'm going to be walking you through my gear for the 2020 wedding season.
Taylor Jackson, shooting 67 weddings last year.
Taylor Jackson, welcome.
So Taylor, you are well known in this community. You're an amazing photographer.
Welcome to my gear for 2020. As you can see, this is everything. My bag has exploded everything into a very photogenic setup right here. And I have the Blackjack dealer cam above me, which I'm pretty excited about. This is my camera gear specifically for wedding photography. If you're a follower of this channel, you know that sometimes I also do hybrid coverage, which means I'm making a highlight film, a 2 to 4, 5, 6 minute film while also doing wedding photography coverage. We're talking specifically about photography today. So if I'm hired to go out and do a 4-hour wedding or a 6-hour wedding or an 8-hour wedding or 12, 14, 18-hour wedding, this is what I'm bringing. I might bring more batteries. We'll talk about that in a moment. If I'm doing like a big long day, my typical day is somewhere usually, I would say maybe 8 to 10 hours. And this is kind of the kit that I use for all of that. I had a lot of equipment. I had a rolly case. I had second bags everywhere. I've realized over time that if I can fit everything in here, it really does make my life happiness a heck of a lot better. Quick mention, if you're watching this video before April 11th, I have the biggest deal that I've ever offered and I will never be offering again. So I apologize if you're watching this video after April 11th, 2020. But if you're watching it before, you can get all of my wedding photography courses. It's like $2,000 in course content for $30. There's a link in the description below. This deal will never be coming back. So again, I apologize if you're watching this after April 11th. Let's get into the talking about the gear. The one addition this year is my Nikon D780, and that's going to be my main camera body. As I spoke to before, I also do hybrid coverage as well, so I'm doing both photography and video sometimes. So as a main camera, this Nikon D780 is really key. I actually put up a review of this maybe 2 or 3 days ago, so if you're interested in checking that out, head over there. But also keep in mind, if you're watching this and you're only doing photography, that you don't need to go for something like a D780 that's brand new. You can get a D750, which is, I'm gonna say, the best deal in all of cameras right now to get a beautiful full frame camera that has back access to every lens that Nikon's ever made since like the 70s pretty much, that you're able to just have access to all that. Some of them are gonna be manual focus, but there's a lot of good stuff in the catalog. So don't obsess about getting the latest, greatest if you're just doing photography. The advancements really do come in when it comes to doing video coverage. So if you're interested in hybrid, this might make sense, but if you're just interested in photography, don't worry about spending all the money to get something like this or the D6 or whatever it might be. On my main camera body, I'm actually gonna do a little quick switch here. On my main camera body, I always have, or I'm gonna say 95, 98% of the time, I always have my 85mm f1.4G. This lens here is my favorite lens. It is just the reason I think that I stuck with Nikon is that I like this lens so much. For weddings specifically, this might not translate to absolutely every other genre of photography, but for weddings specifically and portraits, when you shoot this lens at something like 1.4, it really just does create a flattering image across all lighting situations, unless there's a lot of really strong contrast, like it might not handle like contrast points like the black and the bright sun behind me here. But that's the thing you get to know. And when you're photographing people, if they look good in the images, if they're happy with their appearance, if their skin looks great, they're gonna be a lot happier with their photos. And I find that this 85 really does go beyond any other 85 from any manufacturer that I have ever seen. So I love this lens a lot. It is my main lens. It would be on my camera all day if I could, but unfortunately sometimes you gotta get that wide shot. Secondary body is always my wide camera. So usually how this goes, the reason why this one has a strap on it is that I will just kind of have this over my shoulder, like so, all day with this in my hands, taking photos. And if I ever need a wide, or if a group comes up to me and they're like, hey, can you take our photo of 150 people? I'll be like, so this camera here, to the Blackjack cam, is a Nikon D850 with a 24mm 1.4G on there. And overall, it gives a very similar style to this 85. So these go very well together. You might have seen, even yesterday, the 35 Tamron review went up, and that is a lens that I use on my secondary body. Actually, I use that lens on my secondary body for photography coverage until I got this 24, and I just really like this 24 a lot. One of my, I guess, big things, maybe it's leaning a little bit too much into just shallow depth of field to compensate for lack of other things going on in an image. But on a wedding day, you can really kind of balance using depth of field to make things look more interesting. And I think shooting a lens like this 24 1.4 wide open is one, like aesthetically, I think it's one of my favorite looks ever. It's just this kind of beautiful wide angle lens and you don't really see it too often. So that's the reason that I got this lens. I thought 35-1.8 looks great. I love that lens. It's way more versatile overall, but I like the 24 specifically, and just having these two lenses, 85 one body, 24 on the other body, I feel like I can get pretty much everything from a wedding day completely captured as beautifully as I want it to be. So this lens here, I love it. This lens here, I love it. I also have the 35 version of this, the G version of it as well. And I find myself not really using it as much, that I wish that I probably would have just stuck with a Tamron, and I suspect that I will be selling that 35 1.4 G at some point this year. The only other lens that I use outside of these two, or if I know, usually I have a heads up if I'm going into a wedding day and there's gonna be a group of 100 people that I'm gonna have to photograph in the size of the studio, and I can bring the super wide. Or another thing that I do is I tend to work with the same photographers pretty often. So I'll ask Tim, hey Tim, can you bring the super wide this weekend? I think we're gonna have to like do a shot in a very unusual and strange environment. So sometimes he will bring what I need, and I know that that's pretty much the only thing that maybe I could ever kind of paint myself into a corner with, that if I was doing solo coverage, 8-hour day or something, and a group was like, hey, can you photograph all of us in this room? And I'd be like, yeah, I guess so. And then my creative problem solving would go, and I'd be like, I can just do a panorama with this. Instead of shooting with a super wide, I'll just do 6 frames, and I'll do that a few times so they stitch better and everybody's smiling and looking. And then I'll just build it in post rather than shooting with a super wide. So that's always in my mind, my contingency, I guess, if I don't have a wide enough lens, or if I only brought my 35 and I have to do something that needs a wider lens. That's another quick workaround. This 7200 is a lens that I use pretty much for every ceremony, as you've seen, I'm sure, in the full wedding days on my channel. And the reason I like it is because I can get all of the shots that I need without really kind of moving my feet too much. During a wedding day, like any other part of the wedding day, I'm happy to just kind of zoom manually with my feet. And the negative is that I guess I don't have the 7200 on all day, that I can't get all of the shots and I have to actually move. But the positive is that they usually can look a little bit better and give you that little edge. In the grand scheme of things with business, is that making me more money? Probably not. I realistically could just shoot everything with this all day and just kind of get it done. And I feel like that's kind of the same as shooting with a 24-70, is that like, yeah, the images exist, they look pretty good. But I feel like these two lenses here really kind of do make your images a little bit next level. With the 7200, it is simply because I don't want to run around during the ceremony. I would rather just be able to zoom around and get the shots that I need. And then moving into hybrid coverage and doing video, this is, the VR on it is really amazing. It's their, I guess, sports line. I don't know what the official term is, but it's whatever their best VR that they can put in a lens is this. I feel like I'm on a Steadicam whenever I'm shooting with this in VR mode. And maybe if you're a Nikon shooter, there's a few different VR options. So you have normal and you have sport, or sometimes you have normal and you have active. What the active or sport in some cases means is that you're ever shooting from a moving vehicle, that's the setting that you should be on, that it really just kind of tries to stabilize everything. And then normal means you're kind of standing still and doing stuff. So maybe, hopefully that helped you. I'm sure Canon or other companies probably have something similar going on, but that's something that I learned a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I would share with you because it really did make my images from a car a heck of a lot better. Next up in the important things, we have this Godox flash. It is the V1. Depending on which camera system you're using, you have to be selecting it. So the Godox V1N is for Nikon, and basically it means that it just works correctly with your Nikon camera, or the C if you're a Canon shooter, or F if you're Fuji, or S if you're Sony. And it does everything that I could ever need from a flash on a wedding day. Speedlight. I do have an AD200 Pro, also by Godox, but I find myself that this just kind of gets more than enough done. But I really do find that the power, I'm never outside with like a modifier trying to overpower the sun or anything crazy like that. So I never really need that level of power. This does everything that I need whenever it starts to get a little bit darker and I need to compensate for a little bit of flash. I also have with me, in the back of the case here, I'll get to the bag in a moment. In the back of the pouch, there is this lovely little, I'm gonna call it, it's like a little turkey. Little turkey. And what that does is just a little stand here for my flash. And I find myself using this as much as I actually use this light stand. So this light stand I don't know what it is. It's, I don't know, I went on Amazon and whatever the cheapest light stand was, I purchased it. You don't have to get too crazy with light stands if you're just supporting a small little speed light like this. But do know to put them in a spot where they're not gonna get kicked over by kids like running around and kicking stuff, because things don't really get that wild at weddings, but your light stand, I've had, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 flashes tip over and they've all survived, fortunately. One of them, I lost this piece, it just exploded out, but flash still works perfectly fine. Basically, my process for flash is that if I walk into a room, quality of light is good, but it's very dim. No problem, I have cameras that can go high ISO and really just kind of handle anything. And if you're interested, there's actually a video that I shot all at 5000 ISO. The entire wedding day was all at 5000 ISO and it was on this 850. So yeah, really no problems at all shooting that high ISO. If quality of light is not good, which means that there's those little pothole or pot lights and just kind of like making everything just look a lot, it just doesn't look good. Everybody has bags under their eyes. At that point is usually when I come in with an on-camera flash, and if I know that on-camera flash just isn't gonna cut it for whatever reason, I'll move it off camera. So when I move it off camera, I put this X2TN, because again, Nikon, on the top of my camera up here. And all it does, it's actually really cool. So it controls everything by groups here. So if you're on group A, you're on group B, you're on group C, D, which means whatever you've set your flash to. So if you have a bunch of these kicking around in the room, you can control all of them individually. You have your wheel down here to quickly just change whatever the settings are. So if you're a little bit too high flash power, you can easily dial that back, or you can just shoot it on TTL. I find for my post-production that it's better when I shoot everything manual so that everything is just the same and I can do batch corrections when I get back into post and correct. But if you want to shoot TTL, by all means do that. This is like the nicest off-camera flash kit really that I've ever used, and I'm super excited that I can actually use off-camera flash reliably now. Beyond off-camera flash, one thing that is often overlooked is just a simple video light like this. This is the Godox, I think it's the R1. If it's not, I've put the correct name on the screen. And essentially what it does is it's a nice soft white light, and you can change the Kelvin of it. So if you want to go all the way down to something like, I don't know, make it nice and orange, you can go and you can match that weird incandescent. There's also a bunch of like crazy different settings. You can do like red if you want to get like really unique and weird, I guess, with your wedding photography. I find myself using, this is the police siren. So if you're ever filming a movie and you need that blue and red flash in the background, you get that. Anyways, not really necessary for a wedding day, but for just having that nice soft video light that if you ever just need to clean something up, or if you're in a dark space and you're like, this is a beautiful environment, but I just need a little bit more light on the couple to make them kind of like more of the focus of the image, that a video light is usually a better situation than setting everything up with an off-camera flash. And what I actually use a lot is this little cup here. And this actually works with the V1. So if you want a little modifier there, or if you want it on here, it works as well. So basically what it does is it just makes everything nice and soft. So rather than a big kind of more directional LEDs, it just softens it out so that it kind of looks a little bit more like a real light that could have been within the frame. My off-camera light, or my, I guess, off-camera video light, really the only thing that I'm trying to do is make it look like it should be part of the scene. I don't want it to look like it's just like weird light that just shouldn't exist, or that if the light's actually in the scene, I want it to look natural. I want to hide my off-camera flashes. Guess what I'm trying to say. On top of that, we have a CTO gel. If I could have a CTS gel, which is just like a little less orange, I think it's color temperature straw, I would love that, but I don't have that. So basically all this does, magnet again, clips on there, and now your flash is orange. With this, you can just change the color temperature to match that, so it's no big deal. But for flash, that's pretty much the only thing that I ever use. I rarely, if ever, use this little cup here on this flash, but what I will do is use this if I'm in an incandescent environment. Next up, we have batteries and we have cards and a battery charger. So battery charger, pretty exciting. These all charge, or this camera charges USB-C now, so I can just kind of bring one of those battery packs with me and charge wherever, rather than finding, basically if I find an outlet, I'm like, cool, I'll use that. And then I leave that there and I never see it again, and I lose batteries and chargers that way quite often. So if I can just charge it with like a USB-C just kind of in my, or even like put it back in my camera bag and shoot on my second body while it's charging, I would way rather do that than just keep replacing these over and over again, because I really do forget them. I forget a lot of light stands too, so that's why I buy the cheap ones. Amazon Basics batteries for this X2T. Getting really, it's difficult to say because Fuji has the X-T2, an X-T3 and X-T4, and this is the X2T. It's very confusing to say. And then a backup card for each camera. I have 2 cards in each of these cameras, 2 SDs in this one, an XQD and an SD in this one. And I have 128s. Sometimes I'll even shoot a 256 if it's the SD. And that, I would say, if I'm just doing photography on a wedding day, I will never reach the end of that. Again, that's kind of my 8 to 10 hour day. If I was doing something like an 18-hour day, which is a long time to be at a wedding, I might bring extra cards, but again, this is kind of geared to my usual environment. And then if I'm working with a second shooter, usually I have a second little small bag with me and it has my laptop, a card reader, and a hard drive in it, so I can just download all their cards. Or you can get something like the Narbox that I don't have here with me, but you can just download cards that way and it just downloads everything to this hard drive that you just walk around with. Or you just take your seconds cards and you meet up with them on Monday, or you have them shoot on your cards if that's the easiest. I don't know, there's a lot, it's like Photoshop, there's 100 different ways to do everything. So how you get your photos from your second photographer, that's your business. Last item here, Peak Design Everyday Messenger. This is the V1 version of this bag. There is a V2 available as well. This one's perfectly fine, so I'm probably not going to upgrade until I need to. But all the Peak Design items are just absolutely amazing. This is all I bring with me. So I guess the cool thing and the amazing thing with this is that you get these little flip downs. So if you want to make some shelves. In my Peak Design Messenger, I have kind of 3 slots here. So usually what happens, I guess I'll load this up since it's pretty much done here. Usually this guy sits right here. This Godox V1 sits right here in the middle. And my second camera body sits up front there. So if it's not needed, all I need is this. That's where that all goes. In the front pouch here, what happens there? Battery charger, X2T, extra cards, extra batteries. You can put them in slots if you want to. And then this guy that we forgot about, he can either go on the side or he can go in the front up here. There you go. One of the other great things with the Peak Design bags is they have this kind of, depending on how full it is, it's a little stretchy and you can pick which one you are. So if you don't have this second camera body in here, you can probably be all the way down here. And if you do, it kind of just makes it like as compact of a package as possible. So no problems whatsoever carrying this bag around all day. I leave my light stand in my car because I don't really need that all the time. And yeah, that's all. This in my hands, that on my shoulder. Sometimes my second camera body on my shoulder as well, depending on what part of the day it is. And then this just in the trunk of my car. Thanks for watching today. I hope that this revealed some of the mystery and the fact, if anything else, like you can invest in these expensive lenses, but you can also get similar versions of them that are a lot less expensive, as I spoke to with the D750, like that's an amazing photography camera. So you don't have to worry too much about spending all your money on the latest and greatest if you're just doing photography. So yeah, thanks for watching today. I really appreciate you being here. And again, if it is before April 11th, you can currently get all of my wedding photography courses for $30 rather than $2,000+ and save yourself a heck of a lot of money. Thanks for watching. See you next time.